Oh, yes, we are back. We are back again, back again, back again. It's Sonic Weekly, your favorite every 7 days or so podcast about Sonic the Hedgehog. I am one of your hosts, Grant, and with us again this week, the impresario of the Sega Saturn, it's Bo. Hi, Bo.
Feed me up. I am glad to be back and talking about Sonic with friends once again.
So happy you're back, and with us, the star of the show, out of the shadows into the spotlight, it's David the Lurker. Hi, David.
Whoa, hi Grant, hi Bo. Oh yeah, here we are. We are talking. You're talking about Sonic. You could talk about Sonic and Friends with Sonic
and Friends
and with Friend.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I got.
You mean the Hello Kitty-esque style?
Yeah,
baby show on TikTok or where does that show live? Yeah, on TikTok,
I think
right?
it premieres on TikTok. It's definitely designed for TikTok viewing. Verticality, as it were. But they do put uploads on the Japanese Sonic YouTube.
That's
it
true.
exists.
Bo, do your children have any interest in Sonic and Friends, the ostensibly child-friendly Sonic series?
We have not tried it. It's presumably all in Japanese. That may be an obstacle.
Right. No, those shorts are they're all. It's just music and sound effects. There is no talking.
Oh wow. Okay, maybe it's a little more accessible than I thought.
Yeah, it's like Coco Melon style, right? It's just like bright lights, colors, dancing around. I don't know. Hey, you know what we're not doing is bearing the lead, because listen, SpongeBob, this is a DEFCON 5. SpongeBob without voices. They're coming. They're confirmed for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. How have we been? We haven't, the three of us, been in the same recording booth for a minute. That goes on hold because SpongeBob, we've figured out some of the mysteries. SpongeBob and Patrick, they are coming to Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are coming to Cross Worlds. And Avatar and assorted characters, Korra and, is it Aang? I don't really know Avatar. But those characters.
Yeah, what's your guys' relationship with SpongeBob? I feel like I'm a year and a half too old to get SpongeBob.
If I were to rank the Paramount characters in terms of which ones I'm most excited for, I am least excited for Avatar because that was past my time. I was in college by the time that came out.
Mm-hmm.
Turtles I would put number 2 because although they seem like natural bedfellows for Sonic the Hedgehog, I think I'm a little more interested in SpongeBob because SpongeBob came out just as I was in high school. I was too old to be watching cartoons, but with my first girlfriend, we would hang around in our living room with her parents, and you put something on TV, and if Everybody Loves Raymond is over, you switch over and it's SpongeBob, and it's pretty funny, and you're holding hands, and everybody's okay with it.
Oh man,
that's my relationship to SpongeBob, and I'm excited for the characters to be in there, but gotta point out the major asterisk with it, which is they're coming without voices. So you got to wonder, what is even the appeal then? Because they had this problem with the Nickelodeon All-Stars fighting game, where they released the fighting game. There were no voices, so no banter between SpongeBob and the Ninja Turtles. So then they got the actors, they paid them, they recorded some lines, they added that, they patched that in. But I don't think that's going to happen this time. They've already said that the Sega characters, the Sonic characters, they'll have plenty of banter lines and unique lines between all the different variable matchups you can do. But conspicuously silent will be SpongeBob and Patrick Star and Leonardo and Raphael and all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So David, you could voice them maybe, but
I could be them all.
Will not be doing it.
I can be SpongeBob. Yeah. There we go. That's how you do it, right?
Yeah, just do your Tails voice for all of them, right?
Oh, guys, it's me, Leonardo. Oh, yeah, and I'm Raphael. Yeah. I mean, I probably am swapping Turtles and SpongeBob because I am, well, the Ninja. Yeah, the Ninja Turtles were my first love, so
yeah,
I'm just
same.
Yeah, like any version. I know it's specifically the Mutant Mayhem, the Seth Rogen film verse, which I'm okay with.
That's what bumps them down to number 2 for me. If it was the classic 1980s Ninja Turtles, it might be number 1.
Okay.
Even the 2003 Ninja Turtles, which I don't have as much nostalgia for.
All right.
But yeah, the Mutant Mayhem, they're fine. Nothing against them. They're just not necessarily my turtles.
Right. They're not your turtle. They're just a turtle.
See, I loved the Turtles. They were my first love. And I just am not excited by this. I'm just more confused by it. Like, why not John McClane from Die Hard? Like, what's the unifying principle here besides Paramount?
This one does feel so much like that game Multiverses that came out a few years ago, where it was just all the Warner Brothers corporate like characters, even though they didn't make, because it was like Bugs Bunny, but it was also Arya Stark, but it was also Gandalf. And it was like, oh, I guess the same holding company owns New Line and Warner Brothers and HBO, so that adds up. But they don't feel like the same brand, and that seems like the same thing here, which is like, I guess it makes as much sense as Wreck-It Ralph or Danica Patrick. But here's my problem.
That's Sonic exactly how much sense it makes. Yes,
but Sonic has always had he's got a deep history with crossovers, way back to the Honey Nut Cheerios, Honey Nut Bee crossover commercial in 1992 for Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And then he crossed over a few years later with the Cookie Crisp Dog, you may remember, for the Sonic the Hedgehog Pog set, which featured Sally Acorn and Knuckles the Echidna at a time where key art for both characters was very difficult to come by, much less physical Sonic anything.
Right.
Yeah, I would be more excited for that, like a cereal mascots racer.
Ooh.
Yeah, I would actually pour me some milk for that. I am ready.
You are... Oh, that would be so good. Oh man, who would be that? Would Yummy Mummy be like the Dark Horse character that's actually the best one?
Yeah.
They have the best, the tightest. Who would? There's so many.
I would main Count Chocula, but I also like Lucky, the Lucky Charm leprechaun.
Yeah.
Tricks the Rabbit.
Of course, you gotta have Tricks the Rabbit. Now, would we have all of the chefs from Cinnamon Toast Crunch, or just the one who survived?
No, I think you want all three.
You want all three?
Or at least they're in the power up. Like normally it's just Wendell, but then the other ones hop in when it's power up time.
Right. Confirming they're still alive, that they weren't.
Yeah, that's right.
They didn't accidentally become the cinnamon or
now,
the
how do you
toast.
feel about if they add, and this could be DLC, but if they add cookie characters like the Keebler elves?
Oh yeah.
Is that like no go because it's like this is cereal only mascots, or do the Keebler elves get a kind of it's all bad for you anyway hall pass?
The Cheetos tiger.
Yeah, why not?
In.
I mean, yeah, that feels even further out, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's all food mascots. I mean, I think how many cereal mascots truly exist? But when you're pulling out Quisp, people are going to be like, who the hell is the Quisp alien? And the answer is going to be, it's Quisp.
Well, you're not even going to get there
Sugar
because
Smacks, Sugar Bear.
That's right. Yes. We haven't even mentioned Tony the Tiger. We haven't even mentioned Coco Crisp Monkey, whose probably name is, what's his name, Coco or Crisp? One or the other.
I'm imagining Coco on his shirt.
Right, did we say Toucan Sam or?
You just did, yeah. Toucan Sam, definitely front of the box. Right?
Yeah,
gonna be turning the corner and winking at the camera on the box.
Right, he's going to follow his nose to the finish line.
Absolutely.
See, I'm already writing his...
All of these make as much sense as any of the stuff in Crossworlds. And I guess I'm going to enjoy playing Crossworlds because like my older son and I still most nights enjoy playing Racing Transformed or Team Sonic Racing or Sega All-Stars Racing. But I also feel like, what can you do in a kart racer that's better than what any of those games did? It feels like nothing to me.
Yeah. And also, I think the key thing, too, is what you were saying, that like it just feels really hollow. Maybe it will congeal when we have the game in our hands or some sort of playable demo with all of them, because from the Summer Games Fest, the people that had hands-on experiences, they were all very, very positive in saying that since the demo that we got to play, it's much improved. And it's more of an arcade racer, and that's sort of how it separates itself from Mario Kart or even the previous Nickelodeon kart racers, I guess. But
yeah, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm just not super excited for it. And I guess it is as exciting to me as this next question I have for you guys, which is, what is Squad Busters and why is Sonic in it?
Oh, that's a good question. Squad Busters. That sounds like a app sampler at Buffalo Wild Wings. Am I right?
That sounds right.
Like there was a nice animation in a particular art style that I didn't understand, and then
the social social media. It's a mobile game thing, right?
Something like that.
I've already forgotten about it entirely.
I know. I'm trying to find it on
Stadium. Yeah, I don't see it. Right. What's it called again? Let's look elsewhere.
It's on the official social,
and it looked like they spent a little bit of money on the animation, but I don't get it. I also feel like we're riding high. Izuka's claiming victory. We're back, baby, on the Sonic thing. I'm a little worried we're flying a little too close to the sun on the licensing stuff.
I think you're right, because today they announced like an F1 series sponsorship with the
McLaren. Yes.
Right.
And it just sort of feels like I don't know anything about this. And I guess that's the point. They're just trying to reach new people that they otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah.
It does feel a little bit like you came to a party with somebody else and then they're ditching you to try to like make a bunch of new friends and you're like awkwardly standing in the corner.
I'm also like, who's lifting up who in these situations? Like, is Sonic boosting the Ninja Turtles and McLaren boosting Sonic? Which, how does Squad Busters fit in the mix?
I mean, what, Squad Busters is just a mobile game. I feel like unless Squad Busters is the number one game on mobile, I feel like maybe it's Sonic lifting it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying this, and then we're going to get a bunch of letters being like, no, actually.
Well, it's new. Squad Busters was released in May 2024 as a mobile game.
So it didn't have
this.
time. Okay.
Yeah.
If Sonic Crossworlds was instead a Paramount kids racer, like if it was just all their kid franchises and then it included the Sonic movieverse, that makes sense because at least it's one umbrella of something. It is.
Well, here's the thing about Squad Busters. Here's the copy for it. You can collect and fuse new squaddies as you outsmart rivals in Squad Busters' high-paced PvP multiplayer action. Face Dr. Eggman as a special boss and explore a nostalgic Green Hill Zone map full of classic enemies. Play as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, each featuring unique power moves and abilities in battles. You know where else you can do that? Sonic games, just the regular Sonic games. You don't need to bother with whatever.
That's right.
Squad Busters in limited time event collaboration with Sega. Yeah, it was a cute art style though in the little YouTube trailer that they released, but also it's so mobile game looking though. Like the other characters are like Warrior King with his mustache and Witch purple hair, and
it does feel like it will be lost media. So like maybe people should pay attention to it while you can. But
that's right.
I don't get it. I don't understand what the licensing strategy is here.
The future archivists who come looking for the answers here, we don't have them.
Right.
They did talk about it on Sonic Weekly, Season 4, Episode 2.
Right. You can cite us as it existing, and we'll happily be one of 7 citations on the Wikipedia article. Avatar Legends, is that the name of the Avatar franchise, or is that the name of the new stuff that's coming?
Also, is it Avatar the Airbender or James Cameron Avatar?
This one I know.
They each make sense to me in equal measure.
It's the Airbender, and in fact it is the new, I actually do know David's question, which is it is for the new movie, which we have not seen anything for yet.
Okay.
Is M. Night Shyamalan back for this?
Yeah. No.
But right franchise. That is the same Avatar.
Yeah.
Yes. There is an Avatar Legends role-playing game. That's interesting.
Anyway, okay, so the headline news, dear listener, is SpongeBob Paramount characters join the show. Sonic Weekly staff unenthused.
Should we cross over with like a SpongeBob podcast though, just to like get their hype level?
Yeah.
What is the number one SpongeBob podcast on the internet? Do they go through every episode?
Now, because there's multiple review ones, and yeah, whoever hosts the Krabby Patty Formula cast, come on,
yeah,
we'll talk about it.
I do like early SpongeBob. I think early SpongeBob is fun. Now, Bo, being that you are now a parent, you must have seen SpongeBob. Like you must have been forced to watch SpongeBob at some point, right?
We haven't really gotten there yet. So
that's okay. That's interesting. You're not ready, is what you're saying.
We're not ready. We're in kind of a weird mix right now. My younger son broke his leg, so he's been watching a lot of Daniel Tiger because he's like out of commission temporarily, and that's kind of interfering with older sons. Sonic Prime, How to Train Your Dragon mode of television watching. So we're compromising on Bluey. Everybody can agree on Bluey.
A friend of mine who also has a young child was saying that their son was really into Daniel Tiger, and that when they introduced the kid from Daniel Tiger to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and realizing that there was a shared universe, the kid's head basically exploded.
Yeah.
Splattered all over the wall of just like, oh my God, because the crossovers may not mean much to our withered old souls, but perhaps there is a 3-year-old who's just learning these IP, just learning that these IPs are distinct and that it's unusual for them to be together like this.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day in somebody's neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being a kid and being excited for any sort of crossover. I remember getting excited flipping through a Ninja Turtle magazine and seeing the Ninja Turtles crossing over with Garfield.
Yeah.
So
what about the mutant animals?
the Mutanimal? I mean, that was just part of the Turtles.
Yeah. Didn't feel like a crossover.
No, that was just an expansion of the one universe. But I mean, seeing Garfield there, I was like, whoa, which means we were starving for crossovers. And now there's just too many. What do they really mean anymore?
I want a Sonic Bomberman or Pengo clone, or a Sonic shoot 'em up, or give me a weird genre.
Right.
Rather than another racer.
Right. I guess, when it comes to video games, Smash Brothers became like the ultimate crossover vehicle, right? And then everyone was just trying to emulate Smash. So, like, if you had the Sonic Racer and was like, here's some Sega franchises and a handful of other like primary mascot. If one of the racers was Mega Man, if one of the racers was Bomberman, if one of them was Bonk, why not Bonk or Bubsy?
Sure.
That would fit more.
I would like that. I would like sort of the weird mascot ones, Gex and Bubsy and such in a racing game. But that's like just the serial mascots again.
Yeah, that's just us, because that's us wanting to put him in a place in time of the 90s, whereas of course Sega would want him to be more modern.
That's our cereal. Hey, and Gex just had his collection, so he's relevant again.
Well, I think I brought this up last week, but where's Fang? Fang was just given a mini series by IDW. Was the star villain of Sonic Superstars.
Yep.
Has a toy now and a plush toy. He's a car guy. He has the Marvelous Queen. Where is Fang? He's not that likely to appear in Sonic Racing Crossworlds. In fact, I'd give the Honey Nut Bee better odds.
It does feel like it could be just new characters get introduced every month or two, like the mobile forces speed battle things. Like they're on Bunny the Rabbot in a skeleton costume.
Right.
In their like list of characters at this point.
We must be getting alt costumes too, right? Like we haven't seen that, but they've done it for other, Sonic Battle Mobile and other games, right?
It feels like it. It feels like that should be an easy ad. I mean, it is possible we'll be here like a year and a half from now and go, okay, they've added yet another wave of characters, and it'll give us something to talk about as we wait for 35th anniversary news that's coming. Oh yeah, Sonic's legally observed birthday happened while we were
That's true.
Yeah, between recordings. He is 34, which means what? Something about a subprime mortgage? I don't know. What do you do?
Yeah, 34. When you turn 34 on a Monday, like Sonic did this year, that's less cause for celebration. That's more like the title of a sad poem. So it's just a time for reflection and a time for planning for the future. So I think Sonic and Racing Crossworlds is a good opportunity to do that. Definitely looking towards the future of being a face of Paramount, given that series, but also what does Sega look like? What does the Sonic franchise look like moving forward? And will it include Fang? And can we get over the classic and modern separation? Can we tear down this wall, Mr. Azuka?
Right.
San?
Mr.
Gorbachev?
Right.
We didn't talk about the leaked Sega sales figures, did we?
No, those are super
right.
interesting.
I was just about to bring those up. Right, because if we're talking about 34 years of Sonic, Sega loves mentioning when a game hits 1 million, and then they shut up.
They do.
We never know. So yes, you're talking about the Sega Sammy sales PDF. What's it actually called? You brought it up.
Something like that. Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. But yeah, the sales figures
It shows what we know, which is Frontier sold a whole lot of copies. But to me, the surprise was Superstars. No slouch there. Sold quite well.
Yeah.
And Team Sonic Racing as well was a big seller.
Continues to sell well, which I guess makes sense why they're doing Crossworlds.
Yeah, yes. Team Sonic Racing has a lifetime sales of 3.5 million, which seems very baffling. Sonic Frontiers is 4.57 million. So it sold in the fiscal year of 2023, which I guess that is not actually what
Yeah, I think
their fiscal years are weird, right? Because
they
they
are
like
weird.
it
Yeah,
ends like the fiscal year of 2023 ends in the end of March 2023.
something like that.
It's just something that they do. So 3.2 million the first year, 760,000 the following, 610,000 the year after that. I mean, it's still a lot. And Superstars, I guess, is at 2.43 million. It sold 1.81 million in that first year, which I mean, the way they talked about it or don't talk about it, you'd think like, oh, it didn't even crack 1 million, and they don't want to tell anyone. But that seems like a good number. At least
those seem
enough.
strong.
Yeah.
They do seem strong compared to what we know, and game companies are always very cagey about this information. So leaks like this are definitely interesting, and it is encouraging for the fan position of like hoping that they're going to really invest in the Sonic Frontier sequel. Well, sales wise, it justifies the things that they put to invest in Frontiers, and that being the new direction for the franchise because it's sold. And Superstars, I would say, deserves a follow up with those numbers. If Team Sonic Racing deserves a follow up, then Superstars, whether by our Zest or by somebody else handling Classic Sonic, I suspect we'll see another classic title at some point in the next couple years. Hot prediction there.
Makes sense to me. That's what I'll have to say. But yeah, strong numbers, strong Sonic. He's been bench pressing, I guess, is what we're there.
Yeah.
Can't tell from the arm.
We knew he did leg day, but he's been doing. But he's got noodle arms, but he's got a lot of strength. He's like when a new mother sees a baby under a car. He can lift cars, is what I'm saying.
Right. They should leak more numbers because one game that is missing from this list is Mania, and I would really like to know how many copies, because even trying to guess, it's like, well, we know, like, we can figure out how many copies are on Steam, but that doesn't tell us how many physical copies have sold, how many digital copies sold.
And does this list include digital?
I would think it would have to with these numbers.
Yeah,
I would assume so, but sometimes these lists are very weird where they don't include it. So,
well, there's no way to know unless we ask. But I would assume yes, digital. I have a hard time believing 1.8 million physical copies of Sonic Superstars sold ever.
Yeah, is it global? It's global sales, right?
Yes, these would be global sales. Of course, Persona 5 Royale was the big heavy hitter, over 7 million copies. So that the Sonic wishes it had that, I guess. But hey, all those Sonic games have sold more than Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is only at 1.6.
Also respectable. Like, I'm glad Sega's found the formula.
Yeah, I guess that's what this tells us, is that Sega is doing well in terms of sales, in terms of, I guess, quality. They are on an upswing, which I guess is why they want to cross over with everyone. They want to make as much money as possible before they crash again, because it's Sega and they love to.
They have that scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Speaking of crossovers, do you want to touch briefly on a subject that we have left dormant for a while, which is the DC X Sonic the Hedgehog miniseries?
Whoa!
We talked about the premise and we talked about the first issue, but we're now up to issue 4 of, I believe, 6. And
5.
I don't know if Bo's read anybody. Oh, it's 4 of 5.
Yeah, this is something weird. Here's my micro nitpick of the week. This miniseries, it does say it's blank of 5 right on the cover, but yet when you open the front page and there's the title, there's iconography that signifies there's 6 issues. There's 6 dots, and the dot moves. The one colored dot moves each issue. So issue 3, it's the 3rd dot. Issue 4, the 4th dot is colored green. But there's 6 dots. Only 5 issues. What does this mean?
They forgot to update the dots.
Right, maybe it was meant to be 6 at one point, which is possible, but
certainly possible.
That seems like standard miniseries link to me. Like, why 5?
Yeah, an odd number seems weird.
Like you're missing one.
Yeah.
Yes.
4. Okay, sure. 2, that's not a miniseries. That's 2 one-shots. 4, that's a miniseries. 6, that's a miniseries. 8, that's a series.
Right. I guess nobody uses the term maxi series anymore. That was when it was just 12 issues. But that, yes, 4 and 6. Very rarely do you get 5.
Yeah.
Marvel did used to do 2-issue miniseries back in the day, but that stopped in the 80s, I think. Yes. So I caught up. I finally got the ones I was missing, read through them. Whoa. Man, so here's some spoilers. We've got a fat Lex Luthor. Well, I'm always fascinated by. Well, okay, because like Lex Luthor, he's come in many shapes and sizes over the years, right?
Sure.
He's introduced. He wasn't even originally bald when he was introduced in the 1940 whatever. He's a redhead, and then they shaved his head because that's what evil scientists. They got to be bald. And sometimes he'd be a little chubby, but not a ton. And then sometimes he'd be more lanky and fit because, hey, it's a comic book. You gotta draw that physique, especially if he's mentally going up against Superman. I guess you want him to also look like he's been lifting some weights. In the 80s, when John Byrne rebooted, he made Lex kind of portly, right? Like, hey, he's had some weight, he's had some pounds. Of course, then when he faked his death and got a cloned body, he was super sexy 21-year-old Lex Luthor II. And then his body went into a comatose state. Oh no, he's almost dead. But then he made a deal with the devil, and then he just looked like a really fit 30s guy. Of course, then the deal with the devil undid itself, but he kept the sexy body, but he wasn't sexy.
Just to interject real quick here for Bo's sake, none of this happens in the comic books that we're talking about. None of this happens. None of this at all. Luthor barely appears, and I thought he looked okay. I didn't think he looked that heavy, but
he's heavier than normal in normal continuity. He's a bit more. Yeah, he's a bit bigger around the waist, and so when I look at that, I'm like, there's shades of Byrne Luthor and also kind of shades of Golden Age Alfred in his look. I just find it like, I don't know if they did that just to tell us, hey, this is definitely out of continuity. Look at Luthor's waistline. Yeah, he's in 2 pages. I know. I'm obsessing over nothing.
To me, it was like, he looks like the Justice League or Superman animated series version of Luthor.
He is wearing the animated series suit.
Yeah. But he's got a little more heft. He
looks like a slim Kingpin. Kingpin lost a bunch of weight, and that's where he is. But
and again, Luthor is barely in these issues. Could not. If people who are excited to hear your take on DC Sonic the Hedgehog on this show, you're just talking about Luthor's weight. Kind of fixated.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no. Okay. Let's pull back. Right. Issues
no, it's
2,
fine.
3,
I mean, I don't know
four.
how spoilery we want to be. Maybe that's the right thing to focus on. I can give you a broad tapestry to work with, and then get more specific as you like. So, in the issues that we did not cover, here's just the story's short enough. Darkseid comes to Sonic's Earth to take the Chaos Emeralds. He's more or less successful, enough so that the Justice League has to send Sonic and team to the Justice League Earth, and Justice League stays on Sonic's Earth. So what that means is Sonic and friends take care of the Justice League villains, and Sonic becomes the Flash, Shadow becomes Batman, Knuckles becomes Superman, and so on. And then on Sonic's Earth, the Justice League tangle with, not tangle, but the Sonic characters of that would be appropriate for it. So they meet Dr. Eggman, the Deadly Six, Blaze. They mentioned that there's loop-de-loops in the highways.
Yes. Well, I was trying to think if there's any other Sonic characters. I guess it is just Blaze and the Deadly Six, really, and Eggman. No Chaotix, no. There's a lot more DC characters that we meet than
right. Rouge is not in the series either, because the core team
Sonic. We see Metal Sonic. Batman.
We do see Metal Sonic
goes up against Metal Sonic. I mean, that's the cover of issue 4, and it's neat to see. But because I know they have to get through so much, it does feel a lot of these meetings feel really quick.
Oh yeah,
it's all very. I kind of wish it was 6 issues or. How we could have made it 8, right?
There's a lot. It's clear that Ian Flynn, the writer here again, who is he's clearly having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different pairings that make some sense. Like, for example, in the most recent issue, when Blaze the cat meets Wonder Woman, they both speak in a sort of stilted, kind of like guarded, but royal, but polite, but honorable way of talking that both characters have exhibited before. So it's, they kind of have that together. They're both awkward together, and that's a fun little scene. Or I guess Superman and Eggman is sort of a parallel of Superman and Luthor. Maybe it's the right amount of time. It does feel very quick, though. It does feel like it's very brisk, very briskly paced, and I think it will probably read exceptionally well in a trade. I think it's read pretty well in single issues coming out on the monthly cadence, I believe that they have been.
Yeah, no, I'd say so. Like it feels it's a brisk read. It's a fun read. I've enjoyed it, and even like I think there's only one reference that made me groan just a little bit.
Which one?
It is when the Reverse Flash, Professor Zoom, says to Sonic, "Oh, you're not even good enough to be the Flash's fake, to be his fake." And I'm like, that of all of them that one feels forced.
That I have not that exact one, but the same style is another one where Darkseid is also is like saying something like, I don't remember what it is, but it's another Sonic Adventure 2 quote where it's like he shouldn't know that line, but he's somehow just organically saying it about
it. All starts
Emerald.
With this, a jewel containing the alt. Yeah, like there are a couple where it's a bit too on the nose. Because Eggman at one point goes, "Oh, is that a bird, a plane?" It's like that. That's a gimme. That's just, it doesn't matter. He can say that forever.
I guess because like it's that joke has just been done so many times, even within Superman comics. Like,
yes, it has.
It's been done a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess even in the '60s, people are making fun of it.
Yeah.
Is it a bird, a plane, a frog? No, not bird or plane, nor even frog. I can talk. It's just little old me, underdog. And you're like, yes, we've already hit critical mass to that.
Do you think that a reader who is not entrenched in both DC and Sonic would be able to enjoy this at more than just like a surface level? Like, do you think it's going to convert Sonic fans to reading more DC, or it will convert any DC fans into looking at Sonic? I was at a comic shop recently and I was kind of eyeballing to see if I could pick up a physical issue of this, and couldn't find it, or it was difficult to locate even the Sonic comics because they were off in the corner with like the Disney kids comics,
right?
As opposed to the main floor, which was all DC and Marvel.
Right, but this is a DC book, so it should be sitting with the DC books.
Yeah,
right. Because I guess the shop closest to me, it seems like they keep selling out of it. Now, I guess they don't order a ton of copies, but they're ordering enough where they're all gone the next day. I walked in today and they didn't have issue 4, so I went to a different comic shop that had 2 copies left and got one of those. So someone's buying them. Someone must like it. It makes me wonder if they'll bother to do a sequel. If it does well enough, I wouldn't be surprised if they go, "Hey, what else can we do?" Because a lot of the interactions are just very quick. Because even in issue 3, like we see when Sonic and friends are running around DC Earth, we see very brief interactions. But then, like Tails, he's dressed as Cyborg. We don't get to see him fight. We don't get to see him do a battle scene. Everyone else gets a little battle sequence, but not Tails.
Yeah.
There is a crunch. But, I mean, for the most part, I am enjoying it, but I don't know if it really converts anyone. I think if you're a Sonic fan, you're not going to be confused as to, like, you have a vague idea of who Superman and Batman are.
Yeah.
You're fine. If you're a DC fan and you vaguely know who Sonic is, I don't think you're getting as much out of it. And I don't know if that's going to make you start buying the IDW book, honestly. I feel like for Sonic fans, maybe you'll dip your toe a bit more into DC, but for DC people, I think it's just completionist sake for them. They're like, yeah, okay, Sonic, they've all met, like, the DC heroes, they've met Hanna-Barbera characters, they've met the Looney Tunes, they've met Team Phase Clan, Batman met those guys once.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's fun enough, but it's not going to convert anyone to be like, yeah, now I'm all in on both universes.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's so dense that someone will be confused by it.
I don't think so either. I think if you have passing knowledge of either, that you're going to enjoy it. And thinking again about, a friend who is like Bo and has 2 children I saw him recently. So his anecdote about his kids are on my mind. That's why I'm half relaying them. But one of his children likes Knuckles, but only through seeing him on shirts and stuff. Like Knuckles is his favorite character, but primarily through the medium of T-shirts.
Right.
And so I think okay, if that kid who's I think 5 were to read these, they're mostly for the pictures, right? Like they would get it. They would have. Maybe they would not have as much appreciation for the history of Luther's weight journey as you, but they would more or less know what to do with their action figures following.
I do want to meet somebody who loves Knuckles, but only from the show.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Like that person exists.
Who's just a fan of live action Doritos Knuckles. Yeah, absolutely.
Who's this guy? Oh, I love this guy.
Yeah. He's like, wow, I was so into it that I decided to convert to Judaism.
That would be.
That is.
If that's your story, please reach out. SonicWeeklyPodcast at gmail.com. Okay, let's take a quick pivot to the Rings of Saturn, because Bo hasn't. We've been on a little hiatus, but Rings of Saturn has not. As we mentioned last week, Bo was a guest on the Sega Lounge talking Sega Saturn, but also the blog has been active, including, I don't know what's going on with it lately.
Well, we've been doing a lot of stuff. Topical for this conversation is Batman Begins turned 20 years old. So the 2005 game for PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. I found some cheat codes in that and published those for Grant's birthday because I know he loves Batman.
I loved it. I was touched. I played the cheats. I enjoyed being able to use the blue and gray Batman costume in Batman Begins, getting straight to the Batmobile action. I played more of the game than I probably ever will because of those cheats. It was fun.
Then I had a real weird one. You guys know the Shining series from Sega, right?
Yeah, Shining Force, Shining in the Darkness, Shining
Wisdom, Shining Tears.
Yeah.
Anyway, I found, I think, the weirdest hidden feature in a game I've ever found in Shining the Holy Ark. The developers must have thought better of this because they took it out, but left all the code in. The cutting room floor hackers, the Game Shark hackers, they've long known there's a debug menu in Shining the Holy Ark, and it can get you some cool stuff like warp anywhere and upgrade your stats and all this stuff. But there seems like they were intending for there to be a sound matching game where you listen to a series of animal sounds and have to hit X, Y, or Z along with them to unlock this menu. And they don't tell you which sound goes with which button, and it just goes so fast that I don't think anybody would even know that there was a game being played here. So I found this and puzzled out what was going on, and then I held a contest to see, can anybody actually beat this? And within a few hours, someone had beaten it, and their reward was they got to pick the next game for Rings of Saturn, and they chose Omakase Savers, which is a Sega-published, Japan-only, I don't even know how to describe it, adventure game / RPG / vehicle for a J-pop group. So Sega sponsored this J-pop group called Feel, capital Feel, in the 90s with 3...
Rystar.
Yeah, I thought the same. 3 ladies who it's hard to follow the plot, but they get powers and they need to fight ghosts. But then also there's a classmate of theirs who maybe got turned into a ghost. I can't tell what's going on, except there's just lots of Sonic in it. There's a Sonic plush, there's a Tails plush. The girls are playing Sega Saturn on the Sega Saturn.
Whoa.
It's quite the visual experience.
Right. You know how you turn into a ghost, right? You die.
Oh.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So did someone just kill their classmate?
Well, I think the good ending is the classmate comes back. So.
Oh, so they were only mostly dead, is what you're saying?
Partially dead.
Partially dead, which means they were. Well, if they're mostly dead, they're partially alive. I forget exactly how that works, but
Speaking of being partially alive,
My hope is that this hacking work that I've done leads somebody to translate this game so we can see what is going on.
speaking of seeing what's going on, let's get a quick check-in from our buddy Barry at Sega Bits.
Hey listeners of Sonic Weekly, this is Barry from Sega Bits to tell you about a few of our shows. Sega Talk is a bi-weekly show in which my co-host George and I look back on the many games in Sega history. The Swing and Report Show Live is a Sega interview show and the longest-running Sega podcast of all time. Listen to interviews with special guests like former Sega CEO Tom Kalinske, Sonic voice actor Roger Craig Smith, and many more. Watch or listen at youtube.com/SegaBits or search Sega Bits on your podcatcher of choice.
There was a prompt going around on social media for the 10 best movies since the year 2000. And then there was a games version, which is what are the best games, let's say 5 best games since the year 2000.
Just in general?
Just in general. And can you justify putting any Sonic games in there?
Oh, okay. Well,
but I mean, really, that just comes down to like how badly do you like Sonic Mania or Frontiers or Generations or Colors or Forces or Lost World or the Olympics?
I do have to say, if there's anything, it's got to be Unleashed, and I think it's because Unleashed is kind of genius in the way that it moves you between 3D and 2D gameplay throughout stages in a way that feels natural, is true to some idea of how Sonic was in its original form. And it's like a good idea that they had that feels like it didn't reach its final form until Frontiers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would still, like, if there's only enough room in the boat for one Sonic game, I'm taking Frontiers, but that debt of gratitude to Unleashed of, like, if you're looking at from that first decade, 2000 to 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's the MVP Sonic game of that period? I guess it's between Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Unleashed, and Sonic Unleashed is really the true beginning of the modern Sonic Boost Sonic.
Right.
It's not Sonic's best decade. It's not a good one.
No. If you're doing an argument where it's like, oh, the best, like the top 10 best games across the board since the year 2000, you're struggling if you're putting Sonic Adventure 2 there, unless you are obsessed with Sonic. I mean, when people talk about like, oh, what are the best games just in general from an entire time period? I mean, Half-Life 2 is hiding out there. You're dealing with like, Shadow of the Colossus. You're dealing with
You're dealing with most of gaming. Because you're just cutting out the 90s and the 80s. So you're cutting out when Sega was a hardware manufacturer.
Right. And you're cutting out Pong, I guess.
You're cutting out Pong. And it's very difficult to not make, for my list of 10, it was difficult to not make it all Nintendo games. I had to stop and be like, okay, maybe half Nintendo, and then let's think about other, and even thinking about like non-Japanese developers. I was like, oh, I like Rocket League or
right. Oh God, right. You. Because I don't even know if a list could, even though I love Mania, I don't know, can you say Mania is one of the top 10 best games? Like, I mean, if you're shrinking it for like the past 10 years, so 2015 to now, maybe you can squeak in, like on a general sense. On a personal sense, I feel like I'm going to throw it in there because I am a Sonic fan.
Yeah.
And so Sonic always gets top billing for me. And it's like, well, what are the best games? Well, yeah, like I'd want to throw in Frontiers. I'd want to throw in Mania.
Yeah. If we're only talking the past 10 years,
past 10 years,
we've changed the parameters 3 or 4 times now, but that's okay because none of them totally fit for Sonic. So it's it's like lining up the shot. And I would agree that in the past 10 years, that's your peak Sonic time. You get Mania, you get Frontiers.
Yes.
2000 to 2010, if you're looking at that 10 years, I think it's Adventure 2 and Unleashed, and probably Unleashed over Adventure 2.
Right.
Would you take Frontiers or Mania if you only had room for one in this 10 years boat?
Ooh, I mean that is hard. I mean, I feel like,
and then we're just saying that, we're saying the Sonic Generations time period, 2010 to 2015.
Yeah,
we're not covering that.
But I can't even think of like what video games came out between 2010 and 2015 as a whole.
Sonic Generations.
Well, I mean, like in the universe.
Other ones.
Yeah. Like, cause I think like, okay, what games exist? And I don't play a ton of video games, like,
Yeah. And I especially didn't around then.
yeah. So I'm just sitting here going, okay, like, what were the systems at that point?
Yeah, that was the bleak like Xbox 360, PS3 time of like shooters.
Right. So
Bang,
there,
bang, bang. I'm a
yeah,
game.
like, I like Halo. I like the Halo trilogy. And yeah, okay, like if I had to choose between Mania and Frontiers, I feel like I might still choose Mania just because it's so much easier to just pick up and play and do it. Like Frontiers feels like it's an investment. You want to sit down, you got to start from the beginning, build yourself up. And so I'm not as inclined to be like, oh, I did everything in Frontiers and I'll just play the finished save. You're either starting fresh or somewhere in the middle. Once it's done, it's done. But with Mania, you can hop into a level and just do a level and feel content. So I always kind of gravitate towards that when it comes to replayability. Replay Frontiers, that's a commitment. Like I want to do it again, fresh. Here we go. Good
I like
times.
to just run around in Frontiers, spin dash off of rocks and slopes.
Yeah.
And I like to do that when I replay Mania too. But this is actually somewhat relevant, this conversation, because Azuka had been doing the interview rounds, and he was talking about Sonic's lost decade, which basically happened 10 years ago when he moved from Tokyo to Burbank. And that was when Sonic Boom was happening. A lot of people were bashing on the brand. Things were not happening. And then it was arguably the Sonic Mania-ish era. I mean, this is something that like we've kind of talked about before. I don't know if we've talked about on the show, which is like how much, looking back on it, how much impact did Sonic Mania have? Because there's not a direct true follow-up to Sonic Mania. You could view it as somewhat of like an aberration of like, to me, it was huge. And I think to Bo, it was huge too, because it brought us back. We've talked about that before.
Sure. Yes.
We were out of gaming, pretty uninterested in Sonic. And then Sonic Mania was like, oh, they haven't made this game since 1994. I'm interested in this game. And they're making it by people who I know how to do it. But with what's come since, it really kind of gets forgotten. It gets overlooked even by Sonic Origins, which is like maybe the game you go to when you're wanting the classic, or Sonic Superstars if you want a new adventure with classic Sonic, or Sonic Generations, Sonic X Shadow Generations. It's just been enough time now to where I wonder if it's still appreciated. What do you think?
I think there's no doubt that it is the spark, and the carrier of that spark that developed into the flame in this metaphor is Tyson Hesse. So Tyson is involved heavily in Mania. He's doing the animation and the opening. He's doing the adventures.
Yeah, that's huge. You're absolutely right. Like that, the Mania Adventures specifically puts Tyson Hesse on the map because those are huge.
Those are a really big deal. And I think they prove Tyson is a 10x worker in whatever capacity he's going. And it puts him on the map to be the person that's getting the phone call of the movie is dead. How do we bring it back to life? And he does it. He saves the movie. He saves the franchise. And that starts in Mania. Yeah. And I think the years following that, like success to success, is all Tyson's fingerprints on it.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that as far as one creative individual can have an impact, he's had a massive impact on the franchise, maybe more than anyone. Like really, if you just take a bird's eye view of it, of who's had that much impact across different media, it is kind of a singular experience.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't want to diminish the contributions of Azuka or anybody else who works on it, but I think the addition of influence for Tyson brought out the best in everybody and led to the flywheel that led to the movie being a success, which led to the money coming in, which led to more investment to all of it. And yeah, Tyson to me is the guy.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty compelling argument. I think it's also surprising that when Sonic Mania came around, there were a few names that were involved, and Tyson was one because we knew him from the Archie comics and Boxer Hockey and his online presence. But Christian Whitehead, we knew maybe even more. Like he was like kind of the big rock star too, from the Sonic CD port and the mobile ports. And then it still feels like a missed opportunity that he's not part of Sonic Team going forward, that Evening Star as much as Penny was fun and like we want to see them succeed on their own merits and stuff, just as a Sonic fan, like you kind of wish that Tyson and Christian Whitehead and co, like they all came in, but
Right.
what happened.
Yeah. Well, there's always still the opportunity for Evening Star to come back into the fold, right? We don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not doing anything. But they could be doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just curious. I was looking up numbers. The Sonic Mania Adventures compilation on the official channel has 103 million views on YouTube. That is a decent number right there.
It's still the most viewed, still the most popular YouTube video on the Sonic official YouTube channel, I believe. It's right up there. And yeah, I mean, even just think about it. Think about when you walk into a Target, you see Mighty and Ray toys. Why do you see Mighty and Ray toys? It's because of Mania Adventures. It's because of Mania. And really, if you see classic Sonic toys, it's because of Mania. When you see Oil Ocean toys, it's not the Sonic 2 Oil Ocean. It has the lever to stop the fire. It's the Sonic Mania Oil Ocean.
Yeah. Mania has infected every single... Oh, yeah, you're right. That is the number one video. The second most viewed video is the Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric TV commercial.
That's right.
It's funny.
I worked at the ad agency that made that commercial. I had no involvement in it, but I know that the ad agency did because they were always playing it on a loop in their lobby. Okay, so I think we agree that Sonic Mania is big and important, but would you also agree, do you agree that there is like a cohort of people, there's an argument that exists out there in the Sonic fandom that Mania is just like greatest hits redux, overrated? Have you heard that argument? Have you tangled with that thought?
I mean, I've certainly heard it. I've heard people mention it. I've seen arguments for it. On the surface, I think it's easy to make that argument, but I've never seen it as just greatest hits. Oh, we've done like it was coming back to a style that hadn't been done, like you said, like over 20 years. Not really. There were attempts, there were close passes, but not. Because the levels were remixed and there were new zones. It always felt to me like we're reintroducing you to something that you haven't seen in a long time, and we want to prove to you that we can do it. And we can throw in a couple curveballs that you weren't expecting. And then the next time you see us, we're going to blow your mind. We just never got that next step.
Yeah, see, I hear the criticism and I say, yes. Yeah, so what? The Beatles' Super Deluxe albums are better than the originals. What of it?
Right. You are promoting Giles Martin's producing mojo. That is... It could be some
of course,
fight.
the Super Deluxe albums aren't like remixing the songs. Like the Act 2 of each level, or even Act 1 would like remix different elements of the levels in Sonic Mania. But I see your point.
I did not like Maxwell Silverhammer until the Super Deluxe version, and I didn't like Oil Ocean until the Mania version.
Oh, Mania. There you go. Right, you actually got to go into a submarine.
Yeah.
That's neat.
It's cool.
It's been promised to us since that Sonic Adventure 2 preview. When is Sonic going in a submarine? It's Sonic Mania. We've finally done it.
But I think the other side of it is like it came out in 2017, and it was in this mid 2010s period where you have the requel, where it's like half reboot, half sequel. And an example would be like The Force Awakens for Star Wars, which is essentially a remake of A New Hope, the first Star Wars movie, but with new characters, new situation, and is technically a sequel to the existing events. Sonic Mania is clearly built on the architecture of the planned Sonic 3 and Knuckles port or remake that they were going to do. That's why the cutscenes are so bare at first, and like it's why they're coming to Angel Island. It's like it's kind of obvious that that's what's going on, and then they built around that.
Mm-hmm. That's why Blue Spheres is there.
Blue Spheres, yeah.
Blue Spheres forever.
And just that it kind of means that the game doesn't have like much of its own identity. I think we don't necessarily agree with that from what I'm hearing, but I do think that is another view of Mania. Yeah.
It's certainly out there, and I can see why people would say it. I just don't personally agree that like, oh yeah, it's just whatever, and we can move on. I think it's definitely influenced the Sonic brand, and you continue to feel that. That's why I kind of wish those numbers had leaked. I would like to know how many copies of Mania have sold since 2017.
Imagine how much more it would sell too if it was Amy and Shadow. instead of Mighty and Ray. Like Mighty and Ray, it's cute, but like if it was the popular characters instead of the completely obscure, barely requested characters.
Because Mighty and Ray were sort of like, oh, this is trivia in your back pocket, and now they are just plushes at Target. Amy it always feels like should have been there. The fact that she's been inserted into Origins and all those games, it does. I wouldn't mind if at some future point when they do another better collection and they decide to include Mania, they finally give us Amy in that game.
Yeah, that sounds right. I don't know. It would have to be something like that.
Right. They would never do like a Mania plus plus. I feel like it would have to be Mania is now part of this collection. There is this dedicated, bigger, longer thing. You know, we've talked about Origins to death.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yeah, let's sneak in Shadow. Shadow would at least sell 500,000 new copies of that game, at the very least, if not more.
It's science.
Yeah.
And speaking of science, we're at an hour, which means it's time to go. But hey, this was fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, should we?
Hey, we're back.
I think, I mean, it's been an hour, so I think arbitrarily it's kind of time to wrap up. What do you think?
It makes sense. It makes sense to me. I mean, what would we do otherwise? Just go through and see all of the Sonic videos on YouTube from popular to least popular? We definitely could.
That could be a whole episode.
That could be a whole episode. Who's up there? Who's at the bottom? There might be some surprises. If we run out of things to say, that's what we're doing next week.
We're doing a tier list of the Sonic tubers.
Oh God. I think that would end badly. They'd all discover us and then yell at us, and then we have to get them on the show.
Yeah.
Do we get them all at once?
Talk about a ratings bonanza.
The crossover event.
Exactly. It's going to be all of them. There's Sam, there's Chow Mix, and there's SpongeBob SquarePants, the biggest Sonic tuber of all. But the only way to know what we'll do next week, if you've listened this far, you've enjoyed it, do it anyway. If you haven't, it's to subscribe to the podcast using your podcatcher of choice, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or for the Android faithful, podcastaddict.com. That's not how it is.
It might be.
It might, yeah. You could type it in to see where it goes to.
It might be an org.
It might be an org?
I feel like it might be an org.
Yeah. Maybe it's a gov. Wouldn't that be funny? It's a new branch of the government. But if you, so you can subscribe, you can leave a review, leave us a rating. They all have different things, I'm sure, but we appreciate it regardless. But if you reject all podcatchers, we're over on YouTube at Sonic-Weekly. Like, comment, subscribe, and our voices are joined as always with gameplay footage from friend of the show, Jack of old games, not the new ones. Well, he plays new ones too. It's just any games, but he specifically is an old game. You want to reach out to the show? Email address, sonicweeklypodcast@gmail.com. Drop us a line. Let us know what you think we should talk about, what you think about Sonic. And emailing is how you get the link to our Discord server, where you can talk to like-minded Sonic fans about anything and everything, up to and including Sonic T. Hedgehog himself. If you are able to support us financially, we're also over on Ko-fi. We are just Sonic Weekly there. You can throw something in the tip jar, or for $5 a month, become one of our executive producers, just like Pig Dan, Pabsy, Sonic Goose, Saving Throws, Calvagerian, and Alt-Dat. No, it's Alt. Is it Alt-Synth or Alt-Synth? Yeah, I've already forgotten. Look, I'm sorry. It's Alt-Synth. That's what's written down on my notes. Hey, you think I've done it enough? I just haven't memorized. I've always been bad with names. I'll just admit that right now. What is that? That helps offset the cost of hosting and production and all the things. It helps us out. We appreciate it if you can do it. Otherwise, just chill out. Listen and tell a friend, hey, guess what? There's some people on the internet talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. And they'll say, give me that link. They won't ask any other questions except, give me that link. Thank you, Smoovies, for the edit. And, of course, thank you, Bo, for returning from the grand wilderness that is the Midwest. I don't know. And, of course, Grant, thank you for returning from the grand wilderness that is the West Coast.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Bo. Thank you, Smoovies. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.